So this is the cabinet of the Silvertone. It's in decent shape except for veneer missing here and here. I'm just going to patch that. I mean, the right way to do it is to replace this whole piece, but you know, I think I can patch it and it'll look okay. Obviously it needs to be refinished. Not a big deal. I have the chassis out. I just pulled it out. So we'll look at that in a minute. Got a big speaker in it. Got to test that, make sure it's still good. It's solid. It's here. The only thing I'm missing is I'm missing one knob. But other than that, it's pretty complete. It's kind of an interesting radio. We'll look at the chassis in a bit. It's different. So here we have the Silvertone. It's like a 7015 or something chassis. Looks pretty cool. 4 bands. Has push buttons. Uses 9 tubes. So this is basically a console in a tabletop. You got your 5Y3, 2 push-pull outputs, 6V6s. These are probably a first audio, phase inverter, and an RF amp, oscillator, and IF. 3 gain tuning capacitor, so it should be very selective. And of course your tuning eye, which is 90% guaranteed to be bad. Probably won't replace it if it is. They're not necessary for function. You got a lot of buried capacitors in here. You got one here. You got one down here. You got a bunch more below. Kind of interesting. They went with a cardboard for this coil. It's kind of cool. I don't know. Different. Needs a little more cleaning. I think once I get it working, I'll clean it up better. But yeah. Yeah, what attracted me to this was the fact that it uses 9 tubes. And it should perform well. Nice looking cabinet, but you know, that's whatever. But the fact that it's a 9 tube push-pull audio RF amp, I like that kind of stuff, so it should be cool. So we'll take a look at the schematic in a second. So here's the schematic for the Silvertone 1940, model 1591. So a lot of parts. Actually, not that many. 8. Yeah, I mean, realistically, there's 8 caps here. Oh, no, there's not. There's more, because you've got double. Like, these are the same, 20 and 21, so there's probably a good dozen. All right, electrolytics, 30 and 20 at 40, 450 volts. See, 54 and 55. Of course, C54 is a 30. Do I have a 30? I don't know about that. I may not. Double check that. I mean, worst case, I can put a 10 and a 22 together to get 30. That should be fine. And then, yeah, so filter caps. It looks like it is a the negatives go to the center tap of the transformer. Hard to tell. A little hard to tell. Phase inverters is 6Q7. You have another 6Q7 as your first audio. You have one IF stage, oscillator, and an RF 6U7 RF stage. So should be kind of interesting to work on. It's a on-off volume control, the presets with trimmers, so it doesn't have that weird thing with the string that it, you know, pulls cams and so on. It doesn't have that Silvertone used. I wonder who this was made by. Might have been Stuart Warner or someone different than the usual Wells Gardner. I don't know. We'll take a look underneath. Well, we got a lot of dust. Lots of dust. And random wires. Help to remember where those go. Yeah, so some of these caps are a little hard to get to. Might have to unsolder some wires to get to them. Yeah, so this has this whole set of push buttons. That all needs to be cleaned. That's going to be fun. Power supply looks pretty easy to deal with once I get rid of those. Yeah. So basically, I think the first step is going to be to change the electrolytics. Maybe check the power transformer and make sure it's okay first. This is pretty straightforward. So basically, you've got your first filter down at the bottom. It's a big one there. You got your second one here. And then this is the one that goes positive to ground. So there's 3 caps. I'm gonna have to, they didn't disconnect some of the old ones, so I'm gonna have to do that. Some of these have been changed, like that orange one, that one's fine. This one over here with the orange writing, those are not paper caps, they are early film caps, so those are okay. But there's a bunch others that are going to be tough to get to. Like these up here. We'll come back to that. The first thing, like I said, I'd like to get, I think actually this whole assembly comes out. This whole assembly all comes out. There's 2 bolts in the back. I believe this is Stuart Warner. It looks like something that they would do. You take this assembly out, it comes back over so you can work on what's underneath. Pretty smart. So that's not terrible. This won't be that bad. Like I said, first thing I got to do, figure out the power supply. Well, here's a classic example of if I don't put the cord on now, even though I don't want to, I won't be able to get to it once I put this in place. So I think I'm going to put the cord on. Also, I noticed it's kind of weird. They have this, this connects right to the primary on the power transformer. There's no terminal. I mean, they couldn't have spent, 5 cents or something on a terminal over here to just connect the cord to the, I mean, they spent enough on the rest of the radio, actually. It's not like a case of a cheap radio where they're just cheaping out on everything. This is like why did they do this? Anyway, so I'm going to do it the way they did it. It's fine. That's original, obviously. So that's okay. So yeah, I did check the secondary high voltage on the transformer, and it's okay. So that's not too much of a big deal. I see they connected the cap right there. That's okay. Getting it over here, I don't know if there's another place for it. I don't know. That's from the filter cap container there. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to hide them under here. There's tons of space. This is a 5Y3. And typically the surge voltage goes to about 490 volts, 480 volts when you first power it on for about 5 seconds. These old capacitors were rated at working voltage. Typically, let's see, what does this say on it? 450 volts. So that's working volts, so it could tolerate a surge 50 volts for a few seconds, and that was fine. But these new capacitors that they're making now, they're not really made that way, and they don't like being overvolted. They really don't at all. And yes, a 450 volt capacitor would probably survive, and it would probably be fine for quite a number of years, but it's better to run it a little under its operating voltage. So I'd rather have 500 volt. I'm running a little slow today. So B plus comes up here, goes here, goes up through here, here and into the rest of the radio. Okay. So the negative, this is actually a negative filter power supply. So what's happening here, because I'm kind of stupid, this is, well, let's do a green, just because green is cool. Okay, let's do that. So you got your negative, goes up here, goes here, comes up here, through the field coil, back up, out here, down here, through a resistor to ground. So that's how this works. This is positive. The two positives connect together. One goes to the center tap. The other goes right after the field coil. Oh, so why would they have it like this? Well, basically the only reason for it is to generate a negative bias for some of the tubes. You can see the negative voltage comes up to the output tube through a resistor there. Just all it is creating some negative bias for certain voltages in the set. That's all. Okay, so I changed the electrolytics. They're not great. They're a little floppier than I like. This one especially. I think what I'm going to do is maybe, I hate to do this, I really hate to do this, maybe take a zip tie and just tie it up to my power cord here, which I'm gonna, yeah, so there it is there. I can probably just zip tie it up here and then it won't flop around. So I'll do that. It's, you know, floppy otherwise. So I think I'll do that. That'll hold my power cord down and also keep the capacitors in. I know it's not great, but there's just no place to mount it. I was gonna put, you know, without drilling a hole in the side of the chassis, which, you know, I can, I guess, but I just don't really like to do it, especially because it's usually kind of cool. Someone wrote down radio stations. I guess whoever worked on the last probably got asked to program a couple stations for someone, and they took notes and wrote down what they were. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, so yeah, I got a bunch more to replace. This, the way it looks like, though, I think what I'll do, since I have to remove all this here to get to them, I might as well just change them all underneath there, and then we'll power it up and see what happens. I gotta take the speaker out of the cabinet. I hope the speaker's good. I should have checked that already. Oops. So I've taken most of the finish off the front, at least on the Silvertone. Basically, I'm just using lacquer thinner on steel wool. Just, you know, just rubbing it in. Keeps, it's taking the finish off. It takes a while, and you wipe it off with a paper towel. And, you know, so it'll take a while. Okay, so I went ahead, changed these capacitors. What I did do was I left, this is a Sprague orange drop, probably from the 60s. Those don't really go bad, so I left that. And there's this one over here. This is a Sprague. This is a not a paper cap. I have actually a bunch of these. So these are film caps. These are not traditional paper caps. They're actually film caps. So, you know, here's another thing. Some of these are them as well. They're okay. They last for years. So anyway, those don't usually go bad, so I'm going to leave that in. I've still got a couple up here. There looks like there's about 3 or 4 kind of buried, unfortunately. I don't know. What I might do, I could probably get a couple of these easily. The others, I don't know. Then there's some on top of the chassis. Now, the only other problem that I might run into here is I measured the speaker, and the speaker is okay. This is the speaker here. Not in the best shape. It's actually got a little bit of a warped cone. So we're going to see how that sounds. But anyway, I measured that speaker, and the speaker's fine. The field coil output transformer may not be. It's not measuring anything, which is a little unfortunate. So I may have to find one. not the end of the world. I can definitely get one. It's a push-pull audio output transformer, something for a 6v6 or two 6v6s. Should be able to order something, so that's not the end of the world. So I checked some of these resistors. They measure pretty close. They're actually not far off. So I'm leaving them. Yeah, I mean, basically I'm going to clean this band switch. It's kind of a complicated band switch. Clean some of the other controls, gonna do the other caps. I might come back and do these. I don't know, I just don't feel like going into this tight space right now. Okay, so change the capacitors, change one up there, and then one over there. Obviously I'm gonna clean this up a little better once I get it playing. So I checked this speaker cable again. You can see actually here, it's got a little damage here. So anyway, I checked the speaker again, and the speaker fill coil is fine, but the output transformer is definitely open on both sides of the primary. So that's bad. In fact, I was going to plug this in and bring it up, but there's no point because it's not going to do anything. So I've got to order something that's going to work for this. I'll have to do a little bit of searching and see what I can come up with. Otherwise, everything's recapped and everything's, you know, it's kind of a strange opening for the tuning. I was just thinking about that. It's a little small. Anyway, we'll see what it's like when it's on. But yeah, everything's recapped. It was actually pretty easy to work on. There's some things that were hard to get, but I did what I hate to do and used the J hooks, and honestly, it's fine. You never even can see it. We'll just bring it up like this so you can see what it's like. But in general, you know, looks pretty good. It's okay. You can see what I did there. I put a 10 and a 22 because I didn't have a 30, which is okay. You can always combine capacitors, positive to positive, negative to negative, and that adds up the capacitance. So that's a good trick when you don't have the right value. You can do that with, you can see what I did here. I put two in series. So this is a 1000 volt capacitor, and I just put two in series. So there's 630 and 630. So it gives you 1260 volts. It's reduced capacitance, double voltage. So you can do that as well. Anyway, gotta find an output transformer. But everything else is ready to be powered up. I should probably check these bulbs. Maybe I'll do that now. Okay, so I sanded the cabinet. I've grain filled it. And I'm about to put my first coat of finish on it. I've repaired this. It may show up a little, but whatever. Hopefully it won't be too bad. But yeah, we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so the cabinet has its first coat on it. Doesn't look too bad. So we'll just put the finish on it and might do the bottom in a different color. I'm not sure yet. Okay, it's got the clear on it. You can still see the repair a little bit, but that's okay. You know, this thing is 80 plus years old. It's not going to be perfect, and that's fine. So we got the new output transformer for the Silvertone. So basically what I'm going to do, you have your left, center, and right connection. Well, it's just, you have your three connections here. And here you've got your three connections. The red is the center tap. So what I'm going to do is basically just cut these wires, replace the transformer. Looks like someone at one point had an external speaker on here. Don't know why, but whatever, that's fine. I'll remove those connections. Don't need them. And then this can go, and we'll put the new one. Now, this new one is basically the same size, so that should work perfectly. New output transformers on. Have the wires heat shrinked so they should not touch each other. Have the secondary hooked up for the speaker. And when I measure across the plug, which is hard to do in video, but basically measure from one end to center tap, the other end to center tap, I get a little click out of the speaker, which is good. That's one way to test to make sure that the speaker and the output transformer are working. You hear a little click. It's from the battery inside the meter. You can also just put a 9-volt battery or something across it, but this way works pretty well. And assuming the radio is ready, I should be ready to power this up and see if it decides to work or not. All right, we're gonna power this up. I don't remember what these wires are for, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. Antenna, I believe, of some sort, but there is an antenna connection on the back. This actually has a built-in antenna in the cabinet, which some of these radios will not work without the antenna, but I'm gonna try. If it's one of those, I'll get it and I'll connect it. But for now, I just want to see, is the power supply going to work? So I've got my meter on volts DC connected from the filter caps to ground. Now this is a negative filtered power supply, so the positives connect together and the negatives, one goes to each side of the field coil, I believe. Yeah, it sounds right. Anyway. So theoretically everything should be hooked up properly, we hope. Got all the tubes in, got it hooked up to my dim bulb, and we got the variac, which is here, set to 0 volts. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead, turn it on, and let's go up to nothing happening. Oh, yeah, it would help to turn the variac on. Okay, let's go up to 20 volts. See just a little glow in the pilot lamp. That's good. Just keep it there for a moment. We're at 25 volts. Okay, I see the B plus increasing. This is good. Now one bulb seems brighter than the other. Okay. We'll investigate that. One might be a different type. Okay, my B plus is going up. This is good. I think it's supposed to be about 300 volts. If I remember, 330 maybe, 320. I know it's precariously placed here, so we're not going to move it around too much. 3 volts, this is good. No problem so far. Let's go up to 35 volts. Now it's starting to really increase quickly. This is good. Now remember, a 5-way 3, generally when any of these tubes, like a 5-way 3, 5-way 4, they heat up pretty quickly compared to the rest of the tubes in the radio, so the B plus goes up significantly and then it starts dropping, so we can see it dropping now. So this is good. This is what we want. Let's go up to 40 volts. Now I won't hear anything from this for a little while. So the bulb is not lit yet because it's not drawing much current. That's good. That's what we want. We're at 45 volts. Now we're at 55, 70 volts. Okay, starting to draw some current. I should be hearing something. I do. $85. the amp is working. Okay, let's shut this off. So I'm going to check the antenna connections because I think that may be wrong. But at least we know the power supply and the amplifier are working. What we're going to do is we're going to send a signal through this. 455 is the IF. So the problem is that the amplifier is working, but I'm hearing sound out of the speaker, there's a little bit of buzz. It clicks when I switch bands, but I'm not getting any reception. So that could be several different things. That tells me generally the power supply is probably working, amplifier is working, but something in the front end of the radio is not working. So it could be the antenna, could be the oscillator, or it could be the IF. So there's different ways to do this, but what I'm going to do is try and rule out the IF stages of the radio. It could be something as simple as a bad tube or something, but I want to rule things out. So the goal here, send a signal through it. Once I hear the signal, I can also do a quick IF alignment, make sure it's as close to the right frequency as possible. When I hear the signal going through the radio, which is all the way up, interesting. Huh. It's odd. So I'm not hearing anything going through it. Could it be as simple as... Oh. Don't tell me it was on the phono. Don't tell me. Let's take a look here. Let's just try this here. No idea what band I'm on. Really? So never rule anything out when it comes to being stupid, because sometimes you can think too much. Like yesterday when I was working on this, I was fighting with it, trying to figure out why it wasn't working. And there's this little thing on the back that lets you switch between radio and phono. It was in the wrong position. So that would explain why it wasn't working. So obviously, I'm getting a little bit of distortion because my signal generator is here. I'm Joe Ablar, 1 o'clock. But it's playing. I'm on reduced voltage in the dim bulb, but what are we at? 100.
I'm Christopher Cruz in Washington. It's here about 78,000 pounds of
awesome
urgently
sound.
needed specialty baby formula from Switzerland arrived by
very nice sound.
American military transport in Indianapolis today.
Tuning my is dead,
Secretary
so
Tom
that's
Field
another
says
thing.
shipment is since COVID. With local supply of baby formula dwindling, Mayor Adams is cracking down on businesses accused of
don't need to feed those babies. Nice set, actually. It's not bad. Anyway, so I'm gonna do an alignment on it. Just a quick IF alignment. I kind of did already, but it's actually playing quite well. The oscillating is because of the signal generator.
There are all questions that come.
In much of the Northeast, temperatures this weekend have been 20 to 25 degrees higher than normal. White House COVID-19 response coordinator Dr. Ashish Jha says he expects the FDA will authorize Moderna's vaccine for children under age 5.
So we have the Silvertone playing, full line voltage.
You can imagine what's going to happen next. I'm sensing
a lot of volume.
Nobody's mentioning it. From Delaware to Boston, traded in his Mustang V8 for a 4-cylinder car.
The one thing about this is the antenna is difficult to hook up because the wires have changed colors with age. Tested some of the tubes. One of the output tubes is a little weak, but it's not weak enough to be a problem. It's like right on the line between marginal and good. The tuning eye is weak. I'm going to leave it. It's not worth changing for this. Speaker has a little bit.
For an expensive summer. Along I-95 in Darien, Sean Adams.
There's a little bit of a buzz.
Kearney is putting together a school safety summit to deal with concerns and response.
And it's not the speaker, not the radio, I mean. It is the speaker.
Friday the 27th, 5/27/22.
It's a little weak on the low end of the band. I think it needs an alignment. Either that or I've hooked up the antenna wrong, which is also possible. But you can hear the audio. Yeah, so we definitely have some stuff going on with the audio. So I'm going to visit that in a second. Okay, it helps to have the antenna connected properly. Like I said, very difficult to do that.
Even though
So now we have some real sensitivity.
Send officers in.
Fantastic.
for a $5 biggie bag. Get your
This is a nice radio.
clean.
Very nice.
It'll be beautiful for the rest of the weekend across the tri-state with
Of course, he got his first hit in the major leagues at Yankee Stadium with mom and dad here in the stands. Tucker Barnhart behind the plate batting eighth, and Derek Hill is the center fielder. And